Sometimes when you go by plans, things don't go, as you prioritize.
You get frustrated because you feel like you're not accomplishing your end result. You feel like you're stuck in a rut.
Sometimes the script have to be nixed and, scenes had to be changed.
We've been on set for hours upon hours upon hours, and it's hot.
It was almost like a vendetta. I couldn't stop.
You can't just keep going and going and going. You've got to take a break every now and again.
But when you're in that bag 12, 15 hours a day, and you're sweating 103 degrees, you can snap.
Brings out some strange conflicts of human nature.
The tension in the room you could cut with a knife.
I had to really tap into my inner rage.
Manhandled and knocked on my ass.
And we were trying to hurry up and it just wasn't working, and it was late at night and the lights and the car, and it was a hot mess.
I got into filmmaking because my dad was a cameraman and did special effects when I was growing up.
My wife and I, we had 2 little boys, Joel, or Royce Joel, and Joseph. And they would come and visit me at the studio. Royce would gravitate to my IBM computer that had, the graphics programs and so forth.
And when I got into college, I cultivated my interest in filmmaking as a screenwriter, and I wrote some short films, and some of them got made, some of them didn't. And in my travels, I kind of ended up meeting Tom, who's a writer.
Well, our initial story was a horror film with a lot of special effects in it, and that was kind of our dream, was to get that one made. We just kept modifying it and adding to it, changing it, making it better, learning along the way.
I first met Royce at Regal Cinemas. We used to work together. I was his manager, and he was in box office, constantly writing scripts and attending film school at that point. We hooked up, became very good friends. We started writing together.
Different projects I worked with them on, and it all kind of came to fruition when I got asked to do this film Hammerhead.
Like an homage to Friday the 13th type thing, a killer running around in the woods.
I wrote it, and this other director worked on it, and then he was unable to finish the film, so the producer asked me to do some additional photography.
Both Royce and I got to use cameras. Both got good footage.
Royce's mother and I went to visit one of the shooting days, where we were able to see his directorial style or developing style and watch him in action.
How you like it on the set of Hammerhead?
It's pretty sexy.
Yeah?
With all these guys around here.
I know.
All the sexy guys.
Nice, with the sexy blood, huh? Gotta love it.
We had a sense of pride of his accomplishment of, being able to direct various people, especially under challenging circumstances.
I had one scene in Hammerhead with the 2 girls.
And Kurt is this ominous driver.
I ain't giving nobody no goddamn ride, and I ain't giving no ride to no bloody bitches.
And when Tom saw the finished product of Hammerhead, he had recently come into some money and wanted to invest.
Got tired of waiting on someone else to do something for us, so we thought we'd grab the reins and take charge ourselves.
On the following movie that you had, you considered me, and I was happy.
Tom has a framework of what he wants. There's some serial killers, there's a group of kids, there's a house, and there has to be some kind of a heist.
He gave me a small part in Hammerhead, and in doing that, we talked about another movie, or wanting to do another movie.
He had said, well, David's going to be the second lead.
I was a little nervous about that because we're going from a 2.5-minute role in a horror movie to being on screen the majority of the time in a horror / abduction flick.
Royce believed in him, so that's good.
Most of our movie was shot here in Jacksonville and Orange Park area.
We had a location that was graciously brought to us.
We used my mom's house for a lot of locations.
Added trailers should, one against the other.
Closed up area, smaller unit.
The whole thing was 3 sets in one space.
It was very claustrophobic.
It was very narrow.
The feelings of being trapped.
The ceiling was very low.
We had to formulate a story around the location.
I had just recently gave my life to Christ and become a Christian.
We decided to add in the level of spirituality and good versus evil.
I talked to several churches, and due to the nature of the movie, they didn't want to let us shoot it.
I think if Christian people can't understand that, why would somebody make a movie that has Christian stuff going on and they have these sinners in it?
There are these two themes at play.
They must live in a bubble.
I think this movie does a good job at pointing that out, where it's like, yes, this is completely vulgar and horrible, but why would you think that spiritual enlightenment or God isn't there? I mean, he has to show up somehow.
Grace represents purity and is like the female Christ in the story, sacrificial lamb.
She had the grace to die for everybody like Christ did for Augustine.
Untarnished, unblemished, she's a perfect soul.
Even in a situation where she has a gun in her face, she's still not going to cuss, and she's still going to say, I'm going to pray for you.
So I said, okay, well, she has the grace, let's call her Grace.
Wolf represents a fallen angel, basically the devil.
His dad was a pastor, a preacher.
He leaves the Word of Bible, the Word of God.
When he disappoints you and he happens to be a man of God, then you also get disappointed in God or Jesus himself.
And where was this bitch? Where was he? Saving everybody with fucking me?
Do I feel sorry for him? Should I?
There's always more than one layer to a person.
Grace and Spencer are actually a couple, and they're like out of the main group of kids, they're the religious couple.
Well, we want to get married, and I want to be with her the rest of my life, sort of deal. So, I mean, that's basically that.
If he wants to have sex, he has to wait to get married.
So, I want to get in there before I die, you know what I mean?
He's a Christian with a hair trigger temper.
I think it's noble that the way I die, I go out fighting.
The word rapture has many different meanings. It suggests a violence, but also it has a spiritual nature and sexual.
I play Trinity. She's a whore, and I'm not, but it's fun to play one.
I play Roxy. She's a vixen. She is mean and nasty, which I am not in real life most of the time, but I can be.
They're like two peas in a pod. If there's a party to go to, if there's a bowl of drugs, if there's something to do to have a good time, they're there together. Then there's the male version of them, which is Richie.
He's up front. He tries to be sharp, and a lot of times that takes him a little too far.
You're not so fucking good at your fucking guns, are you? Suck my dick, bitch!
He'll put his foot in his mouth and he can't get it out.
Remember my fucking face. Remember me sucking your dick.
Wolf is the leader. Stevie Boy follows.
Stevie Boy is a nasty son of a bitch.
Every day might be his last, but he doesn't care because he just wants to party.
And then his idea of partying is cutting up a bitch and putting her in a trash bag.
He's also the cleaner for the group.
Sybil and Stevie Boy's relationship is pretty complex. They kind of have this toxic relationship.
When you're building it before, like the fist will shake a little bit, and you go, just tell me. Tell you what? That you love me! Ah! Boom. Yeah.
Dude, I'm gonna piss off a psycho girl like you don't know if she ever sees this movie.
remember, play it stupid. Tell you what?
Yeah, I know how to say it. I know how to say it, trust me.
Sybil is the femme fatale in the movie. She's a sex symbol, but she's dangerous.
Just like the famous movie with the split personalities.
Calling her bipolar is an understatement.
She will look dead in your face, talk to you as sweet as a little girl, and like that.
She turns evil.
Wolf's brother Alvy is also in the group.
And have your hand play with her hair, like your hand's already there to half choker.
Right.
Just so beautiful, except for those fucking
dirty fucking whore.
Yeah,
you
whatever.
fucking filthy whore. As a Lord, you fucking filthy.
But
It does
You know, whatever. Remember, your father's a preacher who fucked you up.
You see, like the hallucination. You see what he's going through.
Why are you killing all those girls? Is it because you can't fuck me?
Get out of here! Get out!
You can't fucking get rid of me.
The characters have arcs. Some of them are more aggressive arcs.
Wolf's looking for a way out, looking for someone to put an end to his misery.
Augustine is this poor kid that he's brought into all this.
He's like, I don't want to go against Daddy. Daddy meaning Wolf.
And Gus is also trying to find a way out.
If Gus is out of it by dying, or if Wolf dies, it's one of the two.
And then after a while, it's, you know, fuck you, asshole.
Listen, when you gaze upon the red turban, you know you've made your choice.
I mean, come on. Obviously, that's prophetic. That's your calling.
Red turban, I don't have a freaking clue.
And it's meant to be very vague.
Red Turban Man, I think he is in the script. Doesn't have a name.
He's on kind of a spiritual quest of his own. He's kind of a crazy version of a televangelist.
Open the door and feel the love of Jesus going out as you step right on in.
Not a guy you would want to sit next to at a restaurant and have a conversation with under normal circumstances.
I mean, he just blew it out the water, man.
Originally, I had auditioned for Pizza Boy.
He has no real name. In the script, it says Pizza Boy. He's a functional character.
Mission Control, we are a go.
Funny as hell, he's a gospel singer.
Due to scheduling conflicts, I didn't get the part.
He was even the body double. He was Wolf's body double as well.
And they had all this padding. And the scene was I was on the floor, and this girl's supposed to be kicking me. And my goodness, the girl about cracked her rib.
The actor we got to play Pizza Boy, Justin Simpson, he played it completely differently than Brian was going to play it.
He has a very easygoing personality.
Got to make out with her, which was phenomenal.
I knew it!
What was that? Oh, God.
Got an on-screen Hummer, but she's not a method actor, so that kind of bummed me out.
I'm able to give him a little makeover with my makeup, and he has the lipstick all over his face, and he looks like a clown.
This is not like scary Joker, this is like prostitute Joker.
What are you smiling about?
Fuck you.
He's all made up in this very weird makeup. Not too sure what to make of it, so I'm dealing with the fact my partner's just died.
We had like this huge like bitch fight.
That's my clown, bitch!
We have to be careful because we're using a real switchblade.
Ow!
She can put on a fight. She really can.
We just kind of went balls to the wall and just kind of did it.
At the end, I won.
She definitely was like a crazy bitch.
That was fun to watch from the inside of the car.
That stress ball kept me from shooting everybody in the face.
She has this strange fetish of throwing me in the back of her car in handcuffs with a ball in my mouth.
Kurt, the writer, has he developed some really interesting characters, and there's one. He's the photographer, the crime scene photographer.
Has no business being on the police department at all.
Oh, I might have to grease some palms at the morgue tonight.
In his day job or night job, I guess. He's a stand-up comedian. You don't have to give him any direction aside from who the character is, and he'll go, and it's always hilarious.
They're all very, very dysfunctional in their own way. They all have their own kind of thing that they're working through.
Each movie is a story in itself. And you tell a story how you feel it.
They say you know what you want sometimes, but you don't know how to express it.
Royce had his idea on things, and then Mark had his idea on things.
I could see his frustration, so many times I would say, "Here, no, Royce, you wrote the movie, you visualize the scene, you go ahead, here's the camera."
Over the shoulder, documentary style.
Follow them like a fly on the wall with the camera.
He has a vision, and he doesn't stop until he gets everything perfect, how he sees it.
I was just like that, a little bit green, a little bit of adventure, a little bit of MTV style.
I kind of wanted to step in, take the camera, and do some selfies.
When I shot it, I had that feel of those 80s, 70s slasher movies.
Augustine's chasing someone through the woods with a butcher knife. I mean, we should have threw a little sack on his head. I mean, all the elements are there.
A lot of running. I think I might have dropped 10 pounds that day because I think it was about 100 degrees outside and humid.
I'm thinking, how is she able to do this without breaking her ankles?
Running with a knife. That was a real knife, by the way.
Actually did have to learn how to dig into the foliage and the ground.
Could have been snakes there. I don't know.
We were shooting one of the road scenes. Tom, the producer, was there.
Having to keep stopping for traffic, and then the lawnmower, we had to keep stopping for that.
And we knew the microphone could pick that up.
The producer went over and asked him and said, hey, we're going to be here for like an hour, just shooting real quick. Would you mind shutting it off?
He was probably buying his time. So while Tom was talking to the gentleman is when we were shooting some stuff.
Just kept starting it up and ruining our takes.
You can't just wander around with a camera and expect people to cooperate.
It didn't matter anyway because we ended up looping the whole scene.
Recording the dialogue was actually really interesting. I've never got to sit in a room and record dialogue before.
Being able to, match my voice exactly how I felt at that moment, at that time.
It's just always more genuine when you're on set.
During the filming of the movie, we used the script as basically, it wasn't a Bible, it was a guideline.
I just had given up just going in, trying to practice the scene because I figured, well, this is the way that it's going. We're going here, there, and everywhere.
Everybody was doing their own thing.
A lot of it was just on the fly.
When you're on set and you're interacting with this guy and how he's playing his character.
I had to make up a lot of my lines. A lot of it was ad-libbed, and I tried to hardly say the same thing twice.
Pizza! MacGyver's Pizza's here. You give us the tools, we'll find a way. MacGyver's Pizza is here with a string and fishing wire. We can do it!
They had amazing chemistry, John and Kurt, as their characters, Stevie and Wolf.
He said, look, I can't be memorizing pages of dialogue.
I'm sure you can improvise. You're pretty good at that.
He was much better at just coming up out of the what do they call it, from the cuff.
The one scene with me and John, that was probably one of the funnest scenes we shot, was bouncing off each other and come up with ideas for the scene in the garage. Do me a favor. I just want one thing. I want you to do some kind of.
I'm not gonna be the hairy guy. I don't play that way. Okay.
I just for some reason I think it might be good, but give me some line where the end of it is you got that. I'm gonna say low. I got it. You what? I got it. I'm just, you know what I mean? Just you're kind of getting to me to make sure I understand what the fuck's going on. Sadly, we only had one camera.
If we had 2 cameras from the beginning, very, very complex dialogue scenes could have got done quicker.
The second camera cost more, but then you start seeing the time involved. It's like, oh, well, time costs money.
Well, a lot of hurry up and wait.
The obstacle was there, the AC compressor for the makeup artist. We could not shoot extra scenes that we could have done if we had an extra trailer somewhere else.
When I came onto the set, it wasn't disorganized, it was just stressed.
At first she was kind of just helping John with the effects.
John came in to get something laminated at my store, and he told me that it was for a movie prop.
Fake labels for the beer bottles and stuff we were doing.
She was interested in the filmmaking part of the stuff.
Yeah, I'd always wanted to kind of sit in backstage, kind of, as you will, behind the camera.
Anything she could do, she would help.
I was just kind of expecting to be, helping John with the blood spatter effects and stuff like that, but turned out that I ended up getting a small part.
Royce and I came up with something like maybe to flesh out Gus's character a bit, maybe give him a girlfriend that he's leaving behind.
I was like, okay, at first, because I was told it was just on the phone, I was like, okay, well that's not so bad. And then it's like, oh, we need you to actually be in front of the camera. And it's like, oh crap. I'm the kind of person that fidget. I don't have much acting experience at all. But fortunately at that point in time we had the 2 cameras. So 2 takes, that's all it took.
Not every actor on this film was cut from the same cloth. Each was trained differently. They had all different needs, so I had to direct them each differently. Some were method actors.
I think that for non-creative people, there's a great misunderstanding of what it takes to be creative.
I think crying's kind of hard because it's not fun. Like, I'm crying, it makes me sad.
She would isolate herself. That was her routine that she would go through to make sure that she had that actual kind of feeling. It wasn't just, oh, I'm gonna mimic it. It was, no, I'm actually feeling it.
I can't have somebody that I know, like a friend or girlfriend or whatever, I can't have them in my eye line while I'm doing a scene because in my peripheral vision.
Me personally as a stoner, I'm a terrible stoner because I'm so unmotivated to do anything as opposed to my character who can actually function.
To help facilitate our best friend relationship, we bought best friend bands, best friend bracelets.
I learned some things from her as far as, acting.
But I told her basically I was just going to pretend that she was one of my sisters in real life.
I'm a big sports fan, and one of the guys on set was like,
Gators won the championship. Again. Again.
All right, fuck you, motherfucker. That was the only way I could get motivated enough. Yeah, fuck you, fat man.
I had to really tap into my inner rage and just bring out my big Latin flair.
I would avoid Grace because I didn't want her to feel comfortable around me as a friend.
I like the ambiguousness of it.
From time to time, though, the character, and I think all of us did this at some point, the character will kind of come out in real life.
When you're doing something, you're dying, and things don't go right, I could still flip out, and I did a couple times.
When you have a fire under you, you tend to jump faster.
Whenever Kurt wanted to motivate the characters into whatever scene it was, he wasn't Kurt, he was Wolf.
Yelling at Roxy to do something because he's still the crazy character.
So, yeah, he scared the piss out of them.
I never got scared.
There was a scene in the movie where Grace was shot, and I've never had a gunshot pointed at me before.
She never knew what I was going to do to her throughout the whole filming.
In the back of my mind, I'm actually, fucking shit. Like, I hope that this does not really have a bullet in it.
It kind of rattled her nerves a little bit.
So a shell hit my face. It wasn't actually an actual bullet.
One of the scenes that, like I said, it was critical for the movie too was the rape scene where he's Wolf and the Virgin Mary, as I nicknamed one of the actresses.
The garage scene was definitely a little scary.
Wanted her to be dragged to hell.
There's just something about real spider webs or real rusted tools.
It's a lot of chainsaws, knives, machetes, hammers, a killer's paradise.
Had a life of its own, that no matter what was going on, it was a sinister place.
Hold your legs up
and I'll bring you
to
up.
help him, but don't add weight so he can do his thing, but don't squeeze him or fight him.
We were doing like 12-hour days. We did a 15-hour day. We were 106 degrees. We were sweating in the trailer. By the time we got around to filming this scene, I was like pooped. Went to the next line. I knew pretty much what I was going to do to her to elicit my response, and when we did it, I just let it rip.
I wasn't actually expecting Kurt to be as aggressive as he was.
I was in the process of reaching to grab her in the hair and punch her in the face when I realized, as Kurt, you can't do that.
But because he didn't tell me what he was going to do, it made it more real.
Not that I think that I would be brave enough to protect my sister and let that happen to me.
It really has a chilling feeling.
It horrifies me every time I see it, to be honest.
That night, I actually went to the hotel, and my whole body convulsed in a cramp, and I was laying in my hotel floor with no one to help me.
It's an amazing performance, but what's the expression about what price glory?
I actually remember one shoot where Royce was holding the camera, and it was taking a long time to get this one shoot, and it was a one kind of take. It was a very long take. There was no cut in there. It didn't cut from one face to the other. And suddenly I see that he's starting to kind of droop, and I was wondering what was going on, and it turned out that he was actually very dehydrated.
It seemed like I have lost the energy for that day, and John, the makeup artist, said, let's go to the store, and then we just bought some stuff, and he said, hey, Mark, get these are good. I said, what are these? He said, they're 5-hour energy drinks, so they give you energy, and me as a coffee drinker, I said, hey, anything for energy. I go to the set, and I drink one, and next thing I know is I'm feeling like I'm just starting to work.
John doing the effects was great. That was really cool to see, to actually see a legit effects kit and a legitimate makeup and effects artist. And of course, safety was key with him.
He took a lot of pride and care in his craft and his work.
I had to learn to stay still when he's doing makeup work on me and fake tattoos, which we ended up not using that in the movie.
It's just a transformation. When I'd be in the makeup chair, I could just feel myself changing. The tats were the old jailhouse tats. My favorite horror movie of all time is The Wolfman, Lon Chaney Jr. I had a huge wolf on my neck. So the initials for Lon Chaney Jr. forever. There's a huge skull that John did. Above he put in death, at the bottom I live.
Yes, he's playing this completely psychotic character, but while he's putting the makeup on you and making you look beat up and bloodied, he's like, this is okay, this is fun, let's laugh, ha 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 ha.
And he definitely kept the whole aura exciting.
John used to like to mess around with Royce. One time I remember he took the gun.
Mark was rolling camera, and I didn't know.
We planned the plot, me and John.
Jesus Christ. I'm deaf now.
Fuck you, John.
You suck
I can't
ass.
hear anything now.
Scared the piss out of me.
Things like that used to happen a lot during set. Everybody would goof off and just have fun.
I mean, we got quite a bit done. We had a grip that basically carried the whole film.
We met Bill. He worked as a production assistant on Hammerhead.
See you Slater.
He was working at a bar at the time, at night. He would even grab us some, hey, we need some empty booze bottles for the scene. Sure, no problem, I got them.
He was running around doing stuff and getting stuff done, while we're getting ready to set up for something.
On some occasions, we were doing reshoots when we couldn't even get Kurt and John to come up. So we actually had David's girlfriend, Trina, who was in the movie. She, helped put some makeup and blood on David's face for one of the reshoots. Sometimes on the set, we couldn't have a free hand of somebody holding the boom, so Tom, the producer, held the boom.
We need a props done. We're filming. There's a producer with the prop person, John, makeup man, side by side, making the props that we needed that day.
While I was behind the camera, Kurt and John actually helped stage the blocking of the scenes.
The fight scene had to be choreographed so that we didn't kill each other. My death scene, we broke that up unintentionally. We had filmed one part before, and it was a certain high point I hit.
Here I am, pull the fucking trigger. Go ahead. You think I want to fucking do this for a lifetime, man? It's fucking hell.
He'll give you a little cue. Remember this scene? You're supposed to so and so and so and so. Oh, okay, all right.
It was very, very intense.
The energy of the character was very. It was a very driven scene.
That had to be practiced and choreographed to death, and we only had one shot at this thing.
When I press this little turkey baster in here, low tech, it will simulate his heart beating and blood pumping out, kind of like a Monty Python, but not on a cheesy level.
We didn't have the luxury of many setups for the blood effects.
We used the compressor. We used PVC pipe filled it up to fill up the compressor.
You might have the contents to do it a second time. You may not.
We tested the compressor with water before we used the blood.
The effects blood is mostly sugared color stuff, which it has a different weight and there's different particles. It's not exactly going to blow like water, but we were within the vicinity of it, more than we wanted on the wall where the picture of Jesus was, but it fitted the scene.
His blood tainting a holy image. It's meant to be provocative. When we wrote the script, we had a lot more religious dialogue between Wolf and Grace, but as we revised the script and as we were shooting, we kind of determined less is more, so we trimmed some of that down. But in the visual shooting style, there's all kinds of imagery in the scene. So if I'm not going to have the overt dialogue of the religious tone, I'm going to visually suggest the spirituality.
We went around looking at different places to find cheap furniture.
He's running around trying to get more carpet so we can splatter blood on the carpet and not ruin their carpet.
So we got this remnant carpet. We discovered it had been a roadshow carpet for this local band 38 Special. It even had one of their little set lists still on it. One of the members of 38 Special is related to Sky and Leonard Skinner.
A band, local band, Centenic, which is no longer together, sadly, that some of my friends were in. Their songs are in the movie. Brandon Powell is the son of the keyboard piano player for Leonard Skinner, so it's kind of weird how the 6 degrees of separation in a way, how they're kind of connected.
A good part of the movie have to be shot in South Florida.
And I was doing karaoke every week at the Hollywood Moose Lodge.
Very nice of the guys to let us use the place.
And I said, well, that looks like that little dumpy place. If you put some cigarette smoke.
All those extras were family and friends of Kurt.
A longtime friend of mine, Manny Garcia, and his wife, Manny Adina, Little Manny, Little Adina. They always say I'm not really an actor. Then they find out they can.
The hookers that Alvy kills, the main one with the rose tattoo, that's Brittany Rose Binger. One of the bartenders is Brittany's mother.
Also, Jessica, who plays Sybil, brought her mom, her sister, and some of her friends to be the little hookers and stuff in the back room.
I didn't know what role I was going to play. I thought I was just going to sit by the bar, the Moose Lodge. And then all of a sudden, they opened the door and they said, okay, the prostitute's out. And I was like, Jessica, you brought me to be a prostitute? Come on. And, well, it so happens that I was the madam.
Hey!
Wanna lose your balls?
Right, all right.
I was a little bit concerned that since my sister and I are twins, that you might be able to tell that on screen. Well, look at this hall, honey. Can't even tell that we're sisters.
Dutra, the main mobster in that heist, is actually the composer Mike.
He also did the score for Hammerhead.
Fuck this shit.
What the fuck, boss?
Oh, you guys are clicking again. Before, I haven't clicked yet.
Yeah, let him do the first click.
And I had didn't know at all what to expect meeting Mike. I didn't know if he was kind of a quiet, keep to himself guy and just locks himself in his room while he does the music. I don't know, but he wasn't. He was very personable.
What is your favorite work by Horner?
My favorite?
Or among your favorite?
That's a tough one.
You got. I know that you have to have. I know that you have to have some favorites.
Wrath of Khan.
The church scene was like a place where you have a lot of room. You can move, you can create dimension.
I think that's a way to take a small budget film and, fairly limited in our locations and actually make the canvas bigger.
So it was rough to secure that location, but we finally did.
It's not a coincidence that Wolf's character is a Elvis fanatic.
It was funny that the actor we picked, my friend, is an Elvis tribute artist because he looks like Elvis.
Pastor Presley, can I please see you in your chamber?
Lord have mercy.
And then later on you have the Elvis tie-in with the TCB and all that.
When we were shooting the church scene, Kurt brought some of his family and friends to be extras, the Bingers and Machosos. And one of the extras that was also there was someone that Kurt said she used to be an actress in the 80s, Sherry Levinsky. And she was actually in one of the Friday the 13th movies. And what's kind of funny about that 6 degrees of separation is I'm actually friends with Harry Manfredini, who's the composer of the Friday the 13th series.
I got to know Royce. Boy, I'm trying to think. It could be like 15 years ago or something like that. I've known him a long time.
He would contact various filmmakers in the industry.
Met him through interviews and a website I was doing back then.
He was obviously a huge fan.
So I asked him, I said, would you do a voiceover for one of the characters, the pizza boy's boss?
I don't care if you are my sister's kid, and you better have your fucking shirt on.
Probably my longest known friend.
Another one of Royce's old friends, Bob Glazer, was used as a radio announcer.
He actually starred in the first movie I ever wrote, Darkwoods. His co-star in that film, Trish Dempsey, she actually did the voice of the police dispatcher. And so I like to remember my roots and work with people I've worked with in the past wherever possible.
We are shooting day whatever of shooting of Rapture.
Every production has the major set piece that's the most difficult to shoot, and ours was the finger cutting scene. It was the scene from hell.
A hardcore scene, really intense.
Stevie and Wolf are just having the time of their life watching this guy squirm.
Richie was supposed to lose 2 fingers. He's supposed to get them cut off because he flicks Wolf off like this.
I don't know if he practices missing quarters or what, but he is horrible at quarters.
Cut his finger off because Richie sucked at the game.
Fill me up, Skeeter.
Skeeter.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. Get it nice on there, like.
The craft of making it and how the hole was drilled through the table, and even I as a cameraman got fooled by it.
We only ended up shooting half that scene.
We didn't finish the movie within the plan.
Sometimes when you go by plans, things don't go, as you prioritize.
Just has to keep digging deeper and pulling out all the stops, as they say.
We had to switch gears due to unforeseen events.
The priority was the ones that were moving away, and Juliana had to move for a shoot in California, so we basically shot around her until we're done with her scenes.
We were shooting close-ups of her to be inserted into later scenes just to get her stuff done.
It's just not ideal.
It didn't really bother me, shooting out of order.
And I just had to say, look, trust me, if we just do exactly what I'm asking you to do, it'll all work out.
We rolled with the punches.
Storyboards helped with that too, and which Harumi was glad to assist with.
Working on the storyboards, I was glad that I was able to kind of put a little bit of input into like camera angles.
Harmony turned out to be a real gem and a jewel to help us out.
It also, I think, helped with the organization.
We tried to get everybody back, and not all the actors were available.
That was probably the most difficult thing, getting everybody in the same place at one time.
Hi, who are you and what are you doing here on the set?
I don't know who I am, baby. I forgot to take my medication today. I gotta go.
I at first thought, hey, wait a minute, Tanya, the girl who was playing Roxy, I was like, didn't you move to LA already? And she's like, I'm not the same girl. I'm like, oh wow, I feel dumb.
I didn't really care if there was somebody different. I didn't react to that. I just did my scenes and just did what I was supposed to do.
I'm pretty comfortable with this character. If I wasn't completely, and we only did it for like a few days and then took a long break in a few days, it would be a lot harder because I would have to kind of go back and see how I did everything.
We couldn't do what we originally planned because it involved all the actors interacting and we didn't have them all.
Sometimes if there's nothing there to work with, or nothing that you see that you can make it a little odd.
When he was acting, he was his character, but he was still, you could see the wheels turning. He wanted to make things look better. He wanted to make it more real.
It's always fresh or refreshing to have something come out of nowhere.
Kurt came up with the idea that he said, well, my character's name is Wolf. Why don't I just bite his finger off?
It was pretty brutal.
Like a dog with a bone.
The scene, I think, was more energetic than what was originally written on paper.
We didn't use Polaroid cameras to have still shots to look how it was. Did not write the color grade or anything. So it ended up being all color corrected.
And so I took advantage of all types of film optical effects techniques, applying them through After Effects, and was able to contribute to enhancing the visual look of Rapture beyond its original intent.
Gave it a distinct look, tried to make everything moody and creepy where needed.
Kind of a chroma, kind of an ash tone.
The whole creative process is enlightening. I didn't know half of what went into it.
The editing process on Rapture was extensive and tedious.
We did not have a production house to do it for us. We did not contract it out.
Filming, it's one aspect. Editing is almost more than half of that, because that's where you pull everything together, and that's a talent just as much as directing is.
Because I'm still hyped up from the energy of the set, I don't want to just go to sleep, so I'll start trying to edit the scenes together.
Creative people don't experience time and space as non-creative people do.
The apple did not fall that far from the tree when it comes to me being like my dad.
So engrossed with the minutia of making something work editorially.
I'll get in a rhythm and a groove, and the next thing you know, it's going to be hours before I have to be up for the next day's shoot, so I have to force myself to actually go to sleep.
A lot has been learned through the editing process, and a lot of important choices were made.
There's several things in the movie that are most effective because of the order and the way that they were put together. We did that with the drinking game. We intercutted it with a murder scene.
That cutting and that pace of up and down, back and forth, in effect creates a impression in addition to the subject matter itself.
There's a deleted scene where, Gus says, Gus has kind of wondered, hey, if maybe Wolf is gay. Who knows? He's done prison time. Maybe he had some fun in there. I don't know. I mean, You sit down between us like that, it looked like you were about to go skiing.
Skiing?
Yeah, skiing.
Oh, you're a sick little fuck.
Looked like he was going to be stroking the poles on each side, you know what I mean? And so I used that as a jab at Wolf, and well, we thought, and Wolf took it as a joke, and looking at it, we thought maybe, Wolf probably wouldn't have taken that as a joke, probably was, backhanded Gus if he said it.
Oh, it moves quicker here. The flow is better. Okay, that's great. Are we all happy with this? Royce, we're happy. Kurt, we're happy. David, we're happy. Producer Tom, we're happy. Okay, we're all happy. Then this happy bunch of idiots would go home and think about it for 2 days, and then somebody would say, you know what? Why don't we do this?
We needed more of a punch at the beginning of the film. So after the church, we decided to cut to the heist, which was originally at the end.
It's interesting how even filming it, we were told it was going to be at the end of the heist scene was going to be at the end of the movie. And so it's got to you have to make sure that it does work being in the beginning. And I think it was we all acted neutral enough to where it was able to be moved and it wasn't that big of a deal.
You make one change and next thing you know, you're changing the whole dynamic of a scene.
When I was wrapping up working on Rapture, I actually got suggested to do editing on this other guy's film.
I got Royce involved in my project, and in turn, I ended up bringing David, who plays Gus, on to fill in, to do some extra work for me, because we were adding a new element to this already crazy sequence, and we needed some more crazy cats to do some musician stuff, play some instruments. That happened to be bums.
So I was glad I was able to give him another role in a production I was working on and kind of pay it forward.
Even though personally I'm not a large horror film kind of person, I recognize the skill that was put in and was proud of that, seeing something that my son had worked on and had completed.
When the movie premiered at 5 Points, I was surprised. I did not know that there are so many horror movie fans here.
Family and friends and people that worked on the movie all attended, and it was a ball, it was a blast. We hadn't seen some of these people in a long time, and it was very jovial. We horsed around. We got to see, the fruits of our labors all, come to fruition.
I was unable to attend the premiere.
It was emotional, when both Royce and Tom got up and said their words and thanked everybody.
It was some sort of validation almost.
It's definitely humbling.
Not that I think I'm a movie star, obviously.
The biggest surprise was seeing my face on the screen.
I was nervous as hell.
I really loved how it looked on screen.
I sat there in the audience and had this pride, not for me particularly, but just everybody's involvement.
You get a sense that Royce has a really strong grasp of cinematic storytelling, just based on the fact that he can, use cinematic language in a way that's familiar.
Every 3 seconds, people were either laughing or reacting to the movie.
It left people hanging and guessing.
There really wasn't a specific genre that you could kind of roll this up into a nice, neat little package.
And all of a sudden, just left turn, boom.
Hardcore religion and hardcore horror.
It actually reminds me a lot of Rob Zombie stuff.
Bad stuff happens.
People being killed and shirts coming off.
We made a horror movie with a message.
And it's not that it's a gospel movie, but it does have a lot of religious overtones.
Religion that's supposed to be, non-violent, I guess you could say, and holy and whatnot, and then you're throwing this wrench into it.
When you put controversy in there, people talk about it, and then they'll want to see, well, what's the current controversy about?
It has a lot of hidden and subtle nuances that are thought-provoking.
Hopefully, people will watch it. They'll get the message as they're munching their popcorn and smoking their dope, some of them with their beer. Bless them.
The writers, Royce and Kurt, did an awesome job with this psychological kind of building of the characters to actually bring this kind of movie about, and I hope it gets the praise that it deserves.
I was just amazed by the hard work everybody had put in, and it was my first independent movie, and I learned so much from everyone.
You tend to work with you know, the same groups. You know, you bring people from their project onto yours, and you know, you kind of create this cool local network that way.
It was fun. It was great fun.
It's like a game of golf. You during the day, you get upset, you get tired, you get whatever, but at the end of the day, you look back on it and you know what, we had some good shots, and that's golf. That's many some bad shots, but you remember the good ones when you walk away. Same thing here, and shots still kind of works in the lingo.
Low budget at its best. And it was great collaborating with Royce and trying to carry it all the way through as far as we could.
The last movie I did with Royce, I was the good girl, so it's fun to play the opposite and be the whore.
We had a lot of creative freedom.
I'm glad to be a part of it. I think it's a really original.
The unsung heroes behind the scenes, the people, the camera people, the light people, the sound people, the prop people. There's so many people that don't get the credit that deserve.
Everybody was just good people.
It was somewhat of an investment, but also kind of an adventure at the same time. I figured, it is what it is. If it hits big, then that's a plus. If it doesn't, at least it's a good learning experience.
In the future, when Royce does another movie, I would greatly enjoy working on contributing what I could to enhance either the look or any effects that I could contribute.
My company, Freeman Films, it really feels like this movie is a Freeman film because I directed it and co-wrote it, I edited it, and my dad worked on the color corrections. So it feels like it really was a family affair.
And if the opportunity presented, I would welcome the opportunity to edit the film for him.
The actors and filmmakers that banded together to make this movie, we were like a family unit. Some of us had worked together before, some of us knew each other, some of us didn't. But those friendships and relationships that were forged during the making of that movie will last forever. And none of it would have happened if not for the faith that one man, Tom, put into me. And for that I'm forever grateful.